So my name is Phil Panzarella. I'm a small business owner. I'm the CEO of CPS Professional Services. Been in business about 7 years. I also happen to be the chairman of Easter Seals, serving DC, Maryland, and Virginia. And I've been doing that for 3 years. And I'll just share one story with you. The term is normally a 2-year term. And they asked me to stay on for the 3rd year. And the only reason why I did that is because of this program. This program. I will tell you that all the things that Easter Seals is doing is just unbelievable. I don't think there's a single organization out there across the country that does and provides the level of service across child development, adult daycare, respite care, employment issues like Easter Seals. And so I brand myself with Easter Seals everywhere I go, and every business opportunity I go out, and I remind people about what Easter Seals does. And so I thank you all for coming today, and thank you for being a part of that and part of this mission. So to me, it's about all veterans, one veteran, one job, one day at a time. And if everybody did that and had that in mind, I think we would lick the problem. You don't have to go hire 1,000, you don't have to go hire 100, but 80% of those businesses out there are small businesses. And if we could get those small businesses to understand the mission and the need, the criticality of it, and understand, buy them and hire them one at a time, I think we'll succeed. So I'm very fortunate to have this august group with me here today, all employers and business owners, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. They all have expertise in their own right. They've all been extremely successful, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with Bob because I know he's trying to get out of here to get a flight. I think his daughter's getting married this weekend, so he's got to get out of here. So, Bob, please.
Thank you. So thanks. This is great chance. And sometime while I talk, I want to go expand upon a few points I've heard people make today. But I'll give you a little of the background. Get It Done Consulting. Like many of us, you got out of the military one day, medically retired as I was, and you said, what do I do now? And then you realize that you better figure it out. And then you make a lot of mistakes. And then you learn some new things, and you become good at something. For me, that was project management and consulting, and I was out and about doing that. And I kind of had a little bit of an empty feeling, even though things were going pretty well. So I decided one day to take what do I wish I knew? What were these hard lessons I learned? What kind of project management skills should a civilian or should a service member try to adapt to? And started up a small company, small business. And the reason I'm here today is, as you've heard Tommy Rice over there, she's the vocational rehab and employment coordinator. And 2 of the students that she sent to my company are here today, as you know. And we've had a great time. You know, I'll tell you what a good time I have at work. As we had that last panel, would you like to be working with those 2 guys that are down at the end of the table, last panel? Great people here. But those 2 guys, that's pretty much what it's like. When we bring students in, we call it mentor, train, mentor. I won't go too long.
That's okay.
Okay. Mentor, train, mentor. The first piece, we bring them in and they bond. We bond. Almost everybody here is a vet. You start bonding, you talk about Army, you talk about Marines, you're getting into it. There's a good thing to that, a very good thing to that. But you can't do that all the time. In fact, you got to start putting that aside in the business setting so you can excel. Learn the new language. Deal with people as civilians, because that's what you're going to have to do. We train hard on whatever. Train on, in this case, project management or professional business skills. And then mentor. And that's when we get into the networking and the employment. And we'll talk about that a little bit today. But some of the things I've heard are so important. And lessons we've learned just helping vets get jobs. So,
Good.
Got a lot to say. I'm done.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Bob. I can sense the enthusiasm. We got a great panel here. So, Adele, please, a little bit about yourself.
You just heard about me, right? I just spoke. So one thing I do want to is Phil mentioned something that's very important. Is you need to hire. It's one veteran at a time. Really, it is one veteran at a time. You know, regardless whether you categorize it in wounded warrior status or disabled veteran, it's one veteran at a time. Because first of all, there's that veteran community and all these sub communities, but it is really one veteran at a time. And you guys heard my.
Thank you, sir. Stacy.
Well, thank you very much for having me here today. So my company is Strategy and Management Services, SAMS. I'm acronyms, Army girl. Just give it an acronym. So SAMS is, I've had the company now for about 5 years. Actually had the vision for the company about 8 years ago. Had was medically injured, had to leave the Army as a result of that, decided that I was going to go back to school and then later go to industry. And as I was with industry for a number of years, I actually happened to be sitting in the Pentagon. This is pretty emotional for me, but I was sitting in a weapons systems review where the funding decisions are made. And I watched up-armored Humvees not get funded. And I said, this is wrong. This is absolutely wrong. We have to do better than this. We have to do better for the people, and we have to be more fiscally responsible. And from there, that's where the vision for SAMS came. And we've been very successful in the last 5 years. We have about 125 employees currently. And I think we're going to get to tell you more about what we're doing for our veterans as we go on.
Thank you, Stacy. So I aspire to be like her. I'm only at 55 people, so I have to do a little bit more maturing before I catch her. But she's been very successful. So let me start out with some of the basic questions. I mean, first of all, I think you've heard a lot of things about veterans. But why does a company that's a small business or a large business want to even consider about hiring vets? I mean, what is the key ingredient that makes you want to do that? How about you, Bob? Let's start with you.
Well, I think we've kind of heard a number of those things already, but I'm going to submit to you, if you don't tell that employer, they may not get it. They may not get it. You have to tell them your value. How are you going to add value to my company? Don't assume anything. If you think that the fact that you've worked in a diverse environment, have done that for years in the service, that's an important thing. Be able to talk about that.
So Bob, that's a great question. So Odell and Stacy, you guys are in government contracting. Mm-hmm. You have overhead, right? Mm-hmm. Overhead, you can't hire people just because you're benevolent, right?
Yeah.
So why take a risk on veterans?
It's, in my mind, it's not a risk.
Okay.
It's already a proven capability. I've been there. I know what the experiences are. We already know the environment they're coming from. And let's face it, with military, there's already the camaraderie. So they're already part of the team. That's a gimme. We know their experiences. We know if we said go take the hill, they're going to go take the hill, and they're going to figure out how to get it done.
Okay, perfect. Odell?
One of the, in hiring and functioning, from an employer standpoint, we look for the change management adaptation, the people that can deal with conflict management all the time. And more so, technical skills are kind of concrete. That's only 10% of the job. We're in information age today. So it's all data driven. It's how you handle that data. And hiring veterans and military personnel has a mindset around data, and how you receive that data. And being able to use that 90% soft skill to interpret that data and get to mission accomplished is the value add the SRA sees. My job is to make sure I communicate that to some of the hiring managers that may not see it in their resume. So that's, it's always a value add to hire a veteran. I mean, when they try to push back on me, I said, well, I got all the elements that this person has, so why are we even talking?
So let me ask the question. So at the end of the day, for a small business or even a large business, the bottom line is about what?
Competency level.
And bottom line profit, right? For a
company, revenue, man.
Right, so if hiring veterans is not a handout, if you can't provide value and you can't help the bottom line, I hate to say it this way, but business owners are looking for people that can help them drive the bottom line, right? And if you can't, it's not about you at the end of the day as veterans. It really is not. And so if you go in there looking at it from that perspective, you're probably going to be, so any thoughts on that, Stacy, from your experience?
It's true. You have to be a contributor. It's not I don't get a free ride, and it's my company. So, I'm working hard every day, So, yeah, you have to make a contribution. It's not a handout, it's a hand up.
Right. So I think sometimes it's a mindset about, how you go after an opportunity, right? So Bob, did you want to add anything to that?
Well, I'll tell you something. I heard the comment just made on the last panel at the end, hiring managers. So this group here can have all the high ideals in the world and really want to try to help. At the end of the day, if someone is worried that person's going to make it to work, therefore it might affect the bottom line, just remember that is going to be a factor whether they say it or not. So, you know, that's just something to remember. What do we do? People are in business to make money. And we are in a position that we can, like the men and women that come to work for me after the program are disabled vets, and I have an idea about their disabilities very closely. So I've monitored them, and I have to make an assessment. Can I balance that well with the requirements of the job? And I do that all the time. If someone had too many issues that they couldn't help the company, I couldn't afford to bring them on.
Right. So I just want to expand on that a little bit, right? Is government contracting, especially in the space that we are all in, right? Sequestration, LPTA versus firm fixed price versus best value. I mean, how does that impact a hiring manager's decision when they have to go hire? And I think these are all things that we all have to think about, is how do you overcome some of those or add value to yourself to be able to combat that and say how you're going to provide that value. So any thoughts there, Stacy, on that kind of the climate that you face as a business owner?
Oh, it's challenging. I mean, you're absolutely right. We're a lean organization anyway. Sequestration is forcing us to become even more leaner. You know, how do you do that when you're lean anyway? You got to kind of get creative. But we are contracting. We do government contracting, so that means that, you know, there's a position open, unless you're corporate staff. There's a position open, you're a position in there. So we expect folks to show up, folks to be reliable, folks to, you know, give 100% every day consistently.
Right. Right, so I thought I heard Odell in your panels talking about communications. I think, you know, that's one of the ways to deal with issues like that. I mean, you talked about having to go for appointments. Do you want to share, how does SRA handle that when people have to go on appointments? I mean, is it better to have more open dialogue and communication, or is it better as a veteran to come in and say, you know what, I'll just keep it to myself because I don't want anybody to know?
I always advise, you know, I'm transparent again. You know, I tell them right up front, you know, I don't want, you know, Stacy, I just hired her. I don't want her put on a PIP because she's got to go to an appointment.
Yeah.
You know, it takes 3 months to get a VA appointment, man. And it's not time for a PIP or anniversary date.
What's a PIP?
You know, performance improvement plan. So you don't want to, you know, manager says, oh my God, I didn't see Stacy today. Well, it's December 20th, 1989 in my head, right? Not December 20th, 2013. You know, things like that, anything, you know. So that's why we created the bridge with the health advocacy to have those conversations. That's how we handle it. I mean, you know, managers don't automatically go PIP, they call health advocacy. Jennifer, I didn't see Stacy the last couple of days. You know, don't call me, they call health advocacy. That's what I directed our program to do. So that way, everybody doesn't come to me for everything. I mean, they do eventually, but,
Right.
you know, they go to health advocacy and say, okay, okay, I understand, they get it, and Jennifer sends me a note, the nurse, and says, you know, haven't seen Stacy in a couple of days. I called her, you know, she called me back. You know, she had an appointment and she just forgot to, you know, some things you forget. So we got flex schedules. So there's all kind of flexibility, but you have to be upfront with that, and communication is key to that.
Right, perfect. Bob, so how do you retain vets? How do you get them trained? How do you show them a career progression? I mean, is that important when you're hiring?
Well, again, we have the group that we have, I'm aware of what's going on with them in most cases. They probably self-disclose things to me, so I wouldn't know that otherwise. But what I do is I try to make certain accommodations, just even if I know this person has PTS, TBI. I've seen certain things kind of coming out from time to time. Not to make it a stereotype, but just to know that sometimes the short-term memory loss is there, and it seems, how could that guy forget that? Well, he forgot it because, oh, that's right, he has a couple issues. Goodman, this is how I do it, and I think at the end of that, we're able to kind of get there together and cross the goal line. And when we do, everybody's real. You know, it's a good answer, but it takes some work. That's how I do it.
Right. So, is there a career path in your organization? Because like most people in the military, they know their next step, right? They're moving every 18 months, 3 years. I mean, so do you show them a career path and a way to get to the next level for retention?
I think we do that across the board with all our employees because, again, you know, SAMS was created because out of necessity. We were watching programs not get funded, but I was also watching good employees, my peers, leave great companies because of, you know, dissatisfaction. Life's too short, okay? So we have to show them a career path. We have to show them what their next step is. And folks in the military, I mean, as you get promoted, as you're going through the ranks, be an enlisted or officer, you know, you're knowing what you have to do to get to that next level. So we set that up for them. You know, our company it's a family environment. We want folks to come and we want folks to stay. We don't want you to leave. So that's kind of a natural culture of the organization, is watching and enabling that career progression.
Perfect, perfect. So when you hire, are you better off, or you feel more comfortable when you get a referral from somebody you know, like, and trust, or somebody who responds over the transom and gives you a resume? How about you, Adele?
I'd always rather get a referral. I mean, that's just the common analogy. I mean, even when I was doing project recruiting, and I've probably hired the most people in our organization, you know, across any 1 year span. I never went out and searched and I always did referral base, because you can always trust the judgment.
Perfect. Bob, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, what we do is we expand the students' network from just the group that they're in the class with to include us at GID, and then we bring in a group of panel members, we call them, and you know a couple of them we talked about earlier. And I tell those guys, those men and women, what I want you to think about as though this is a distant relative that you really haven't met before. So you're going to watch over them a little bit. You're going to take care of them to the degree you can. You're going to look for good opportunities for them and pass it along. So I want you to think about it that way. So that's some of the value that we're able to do with our program, so that when, so when Phil comes in, and he's already sort of part of the answer for the group, and he's coaching them and helping them network and make that. Who else said it's the next person out? It's the next person out that has the breakthrough. But you can't get there unless there's some level of trust or confidence that you start with, and the resume doesn't cut it.
So I want to add one thing to that point. I mean, I was listening to all the veterans. I mean, you have a Rolodex of people you know. And one of the things I've always found is nobody wants to call their friends. Nobody wants to call a family member, don't want to impose, don't want to call a close friend, don't want to call a business acquaintance. And you know what? I say that's totally the wrong attitude. If somebody comes to me and says, will you refer me, and I know them and I like them and I trust them, I'm all in. I will refer you. I'm proud of that. I mean, because it's a feather in my cap at the end of the day. If I refer somebody to Stacy that's now a good employee, that was me. I did that, right? I made the connection. And if I don't want to refer you, I'm going to say, sorry, I can't do that. Right? So you'll know right away, but you have to leverage your network of connections. I mean, I'm a small business owner. I used to work for large companies. I'm in LinkedIn. I've got 3,000 connections. I manage my LinkedIn account. I'm going to do it to the day I die. I don't do Facebook, but I do LinkedIn. It's a professional network that I think provides value, and it connects you with people. And I think if you're not tied in socially, either through your network or through tools like that, I think you're missing a huge opportunity. Huge opportunity. And I still do it as a business owner. And I put my company out there. So any other comments on that?
One little one. You got this great network of people that want to help you. Probably everybody in this room would want to help you if you did what? If you told, here's what I'm looking for. Be specific. Tell them, can I please get an introduction to Northrop in this area? Because it's too broad. They're going to say, yeah, I want to help you, but I can't. I say that from my own lessons learned. What specific help are you looking for? And then someone will help you.
So I was here when I got out. I was service disabled vet. I got out after 10 years, and I got out. It's one of the few times the medical board did work, and I got out way before I interviewed. So I didn't do any interviewing, and I was scared to death. I was airborne ranger. It was mentioned earlier, right? 11 Bravo, infantry guy, thinking I have no skill sets. My whole intent in life was to find that one employer that would train me. And they asked me, what do you want to do? I don't know, right? I mean, that's kind of how all of us feel. You don't know. And so I was after that first employer that was willing to take a little bit of time and energy to train me. I'm not saying that's the best approach, but it worked for me. And I got the training, and then I was able to then chart out a different career. I don't know that those opportunities are as available today, but any thoughts on the training aspect of it and those kinds of opportunities? Like big IBM in those days and the large companies would provide training programs. So I targeted companies that had training programs. I didn't care what the salary was. I really didn't. If I would have made $30,000, I was happy. I just needed to get the training. Stan.
There are a number of people in here who work for the workforce system. I work for Easter Seals, helping refer veterans to employment. The thing that we need to get, and we're trying to connect, is a contact, so then we can say, well, we sent Joe what were some of the challenges that you think can we do that? Because that's a concern we have. These veterans go out, they think they did a great job, we may find out they were picking their nose, they didn't even know it. And I'm saying that in a jest, but it's not really that funny. Because sometimes they don't say the right thing at the right time, and it's not because they don't know, it's just they have not been trained.
I'll give you another example of the difference between the military culture and what we do on the outside business. Well, geez, if I go in the interview, I probably get some feedback on how I did. Now they'll tell me what I did right and did wrong. I say, that's HR. If you leave that interview, you will never hear from them again, because there's potential litigation, and this is my own biases here, but I do believe that we have to start thinking more like the outside if we're still thinking as a soldier or a sailor, because it's different. It is different. HR is different. HR is not S1. I say that often. You trust your S1, go up there, I have a problem with my family, my wife's drinking too much. They'll get you some help. Try doing that to HR at any of these organizations. Guess what?
Hey, how can we get him out of here? We need some
You're gone.
administrative leave.
You know, I will tell you, we all laugh at that, but I will
That's
tell
the
you,
truth,
that's,
man.
you know,
That's the truth all
even
day.
for small business, litigation, I've spent thousands of dollars. I mean, Stacy, I mean, let's expand on that one a little bit, because I think, you know, you're looking for feedback, Stan. You know what, we run the risk of litigation. If we give you a piece of information and now it gets translated back to somebody who says, you know what, I didn't like that translation, and then all of a sudden you're getting sued.
That's it.
Any-
And for a
any-
small business, one lawsuit, I might as well close the doors.
Right.
Yeah, we're done. Mhm.
So as much as we would love to give feedback, you can't expect it, because we can't, right? I mean, if you're going on an official interview, but how about informational interviews? Have you ever has anybody ever come to you and say, I'm just looking for some information, and can I pick your brain as a small business owner?
Yes.
What's your
yes.
take?
I think that's great. I think it's great because they're looking to see what's out there. They're asking for the pointers. I get resumes all the time. Look, I'm not, you know, I see that you don't have anything for me, but would you take a look at my resume? And give me some pointers on it. I think that's great. And, you know, if you find people that are willing to do that, you should certainly take advantage of it.
So if you're in logistics and you know of a company that does logistics and you know of a person that you kind of think you match their skill set, call them up and say, hey, I am job hunting, and I don't want a job from you.
Right.
I just want to pick your brain and learn as much as I can about your job, and I'm looking to get better at what I do.
LinkedIn.
Who the heck can't want to help you? Then they can give you feedback all you want, right?
Then
But-
I can give it feedback.
Right, and then you can get that feedback.
That's in
So-
LinkedIn. Another thing, again, much of this stuff is that what we do in our program, but we do mock interviews, okay? This was great. Everybody went through the mock interviews with all 4 of the guys that were interviewing this Monday. And after that, the students left, and I said, so, okay, let's get the high points on how they did. So it was amazing. I mean, that was feedback that I now have, that I share with VR&E, and selectively share, non-attributional to anybody that said it, to say things that people need to work on. But mock interview, it's practice. You need practice. You have to understand how you come across. I would be willing to bet, anybody want, you just drop me a note, email, and say, even on the phone, I'll mock interview you. Because I like to do that. We all like to do stuff like that. It's important to get practice.
You know, so I'm gonna ask the panelists here, right? So everybody wants a face-to-face interview. What's the downside of, and what's the upside and the downside of face-to-face interviews? I mean, you've probably seen some face-to-face interviews. The minute they walked in the door, you already clicked off.
First impressions,
So,
not dressed appropriately. You know, as soon as we know what we do, and you know you're interviewing for a certain position. You're interviewing for a program management position within my company, and you come in the door with, you know, not dressed, looking the part, that's immediate first impression. It already sets it up, already kind of sets the tone. So sometimes a phone interview is best.
yeah. I mean, I've seen somebody comes in, they're looking for a program management job, said, I'm the most organized person I want to see. They had their little portfolio, papers hanging all out of it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it scared the hell out of me. I'm like, I
Yeah.
think this interview's done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, there's all these visual cues you give away without it saying a word. Odell, how about you, from your experience?
I mean, I've been probably in every experience, man, in my tenure of recruiting and employment and counseling and consulting. But for the most part, you know, phone interviews are key. Don't take a phone interview lightly. And the reason I say that is because if you're a program manager and you're running a program where most of your conversation needs to be with NSA on the phone, and how do you communicate? So they may ask you questions about, you know, how do you, they're trying to get your communication, and how do you come across on the phone to get that other person, that customer at NSA or the other three letters to do what you need them to do in order to get requirements. So a phone interview is key. We may not do a face-to-face interview with you because 90% of what you're going to be doing is on the phone and over the web.
Okay,
Volunteer comment?
sir.
I do a lot of interviews on Skype, and a lot of candidates don't realize that a Skype interview is a face-to-face interview.
Yeah, that's
They're in
right.
a T-shirt,
Mhm.
Right.
just hanging out, just
Right.
doing this.
Right,
I can see you.
right. I got you. I mean, but you don't think about it. I mean, so you gotta think about every touch point when you engage, you're being evaluated. Every touch point. It doesn't matter what it is. You know, and it's, how many thank yous have you gotten after an interview? Handwritten thank yous.
Few and far between.
Few and far between. When I get handwritten thank yous, man, I'm like, wow. Person took the time to write me a little bit of a note. Not an email, a handwritten thank you, right?
Yes.
Right,
That
something
means-
that got
Yes,
delivered
handwritten thank
via
you.
snail mail.
And you gotta smile. Go in there with a smile
Oh, yeah.
and greet them with something that, hey, how you doing? Just good day to be alive. Just something that gets them kind of say, no, you're a little bit different than the last person. You're coming through, you're serious, you're trying to get the job. Smiling is important.
So let me ask the panel this question, right? Is it more about the types of things I did in the past or the performance of those things that I did in the past? I mean, you know, you have a resume that says, you know what, I did this and this, you know, I was responsible for 5 people, I was this, I was that. Are you looking for outcomes and where they showed success? I mean, does that resume stand out a lot better than somebody just said, here's a litany of a list of things I've done? Or is it those activities that they did individually that showed outcomes that are important to your organization?
Sure.
Definitely looking for results, man.
Yeah.
You know, I could care less if you went to a bunch of schools. If you did nothing with those schools you went to, it doesn't do me any good. Because it doesn't show me you can perform under any type of, you know, situation, having that knowledge. You read books, but if you got, I want performance measurements. I want to be able to say, okay, this person, you know, started out here and they went here, but along the way, this is what they've done to get to where they're at. So I look at resumes like that. I draw a little picture from your resume from day one of when you first did whatever that you write down up until what you're doing now. I don't read the little minute stuff.
One of the things we teach and preach and practice is something called the STAR technique. There's another acronym for it, but situation, task, action, results. So when someone says, tell me when you were at Gillette, something that you feel real good about that you did, think that model, because it gets you there, it doesn't allow you to be all over the map like I am now, brings you right to the point, result. And if you think along those terms and practice a couple of those before you go in, you just might really get somebody's attention, because that's the most, I found, that's the most powerful way, once you've gone past the resume has been accepted as, you know, credible, now we want to see you and talk to you.
I use that as well, right? So everybody I talk about STAR technique. I mean, it's about activities that you did and the results that you were responsible for. Not your company, not your organization, not your team, you, right? I mean, so that's a great point. Stacy,
Yeah.
any comments at all, before I'm gonna open up to
Okay,
questions? Anything you
okay.
wanna say one more time before to the group that you have burning desire to tell them? It's gotta be HR compliant, sorry.
It's gotta be HR compliant, yeah, you know, I would say, you know, really pay attention to these veterans, give them an opportunity, it's just amazing. I mean, we're very happy to say that, you know, more than 90% of our employee base is veterans and family members. That is amazing. You know, I know where you're coming from. All my managers are veterans. They know the environment. It's just so much better. We know what we're getting. We know what the expectations are. Ground rules are already laid. Camaraderie is established.
Perfect. Odell?
Go to set up your network with LinkedIn, like Phil said. you can type a name of the person you served with last. Find out where they're working. Generally, they get an employee referral for bringing you in, a bonus.
Yeah.
You might want to connect with them. I mean, you know, use things to your advantage. Optimize the tools that are out there that don't cost you anything but time.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good advice. Bob?
Yeah.
It's pretty much, I agree with we're all saying all kinds of good stuff. It's a lot of information, but just remember the value you as a vet have, or you as an employer, what you're looking for from the vet. And then some of the things include the leadership, the discipline, the integrity, okay, a security clearance. I mean, these are things that you might have to point out to somebody as the vet in a nice, clean way. And so we're too humble as soldiers, we're too humble as vets. We gotta step it up and say, this is the value I can bring to you. Because that hiring manager, the CEO, he really, what are you gonna do for me? It's a selfish thing, but I like you, he's a smart guy, boy, I'd like to have him, unless I can see you in my company performing for me and doing great things, I'm probably gonna find somebody that does that.
Perfect. I think the panelists had some great advice. I'd like to open it up. I think I have a little bit of time, so do you have any burning desire, any questions that you want to get answered? Here's a freebie, right? You have 4 business leaders that were willing to answer any question that you have. Now, let me ask one more, last one.
Okay.
Do I put a photo on my resume or do I not?
No. No, stay away from it.
Okay?
And no video resume.
Okay, and so why, I'm gonna ask the question, why not? Yes, sir.
It's a perfect way to set up discrimination. Whatever a person may perceive as the color of your skin, okay, or beyond that, hairstyle, whatever. So, under no circumstance. Can I ask this point? How does HR feel about that question? Is that a form of discrimination to HR when a person sends a resume with their photo attached? Is that the way it's viewed?
No, I mean, it wouldn't be
I'll ask that.
discriminated upon,
Okay.
no.
I mean, no.
Would you prefer as an HR to receive a photo with the resume or not? Oh, that answers.
I'm sorry, you said probably not?
She's an HR.
Probably not.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, that brings something to the point, because we've got a monthly call, we have a virtual recruiting program. We had a young lady get hired, and she had a picture of her photo on her resume. And, it was just interesting, when I saw that, I looked and said, very attractive young lady. But I wondered, could she be setting herself up for something, versus the skills, it opens the door for stuff. You're absolutely right.
LinkedIn, almost everybody has their picture on
right,
LinkedIn,
yeah.
and that's usually, it should be, in my
Yeah.
mind, a professional-looking picture. Some of us have had it at corporations, and they have that headshot, but a professional-looking picture that does, so the picture's probably out there anyway
Right,
for you.
But
So,
that's different
yeah,
than the resume.
LinkedIn is different.
but that's different than putting it on your.
So
resume.
great points, these are all great points, so I'm gonna make one comment about LinkedIn. When I get an invite to LinkedIn, and there's no photo I'm on, I don't know if I wanna link
It's like
in.
an
I'm like,
800
what the
number.
hell's that about? I mean, I wanna know what you look like. I mean, I don't know, and maybe that's a bad thing, good thing, I don't know. You can say it's good, bad, it's indifferent, I don't know, but I just, that's the way I look at it. But that's LinkedIn, that's not resumes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a specific resume format that you all look for or prefer?
I don't prefer the federal
Absolutely not.
version.
Taylor, there
now.
should not, I'm a firm believer that there should
Not
not be a
reading 50
format.
pages.
Right. Tailor it to the job that you're applying for. Don't send me a general resume. If you go on our website and you say, we're applying, I wanna apply for such and such, tailor your resume to that job.
So Stacy, can I say one thing, in government contracting, for those agencies that are government related and you put out requirements, if you put out a requirement that says, I gotta have a master's degree with 15 years of experience with a PMP certification, you probably eliminated 90% of veterans, right? So you gotta provide some flexibility or equivalency of years of experience. I could craft anybody's years of experience to meet program management, PMP certification.
Yep.
If you give me the flexibility, if you don't
Yeah.
give us the flexibility, then I can't hire vets even if I wanted to, because the requirement that just got set
Right.
this bar that, you know what,
That's that high.
you can't fill unless you have the
But
certification.
now, we have to base some of that on OPM standards too much from OPM without OPM approving it, and sometimes they may specifically spell out
Yeah.
degrees or X amount of this and that, and we have to go with what they say.
But I think you're, like GSA Mobus schedule
Yeah.
allows you equivalency, right? So they say, or if you have 5 year, it's,
Yeah.
I think 2 for a bachelor's,
Right.
4 for whatever.
And
Mhm.
most
So-
federal agencies
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Right, most
Yeah.
federal
Work-related
agencies.
expense or, yeah.
But not all the RFPs that come out allow you to do that. So that's the only thing I'm saying, is that, if we're all in this together, we gotta figure out how to make some adjustments.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Sir?
So you had mentioned about when you have a wounded warrior or disabled vet, about them being able to take time to go to appointments or this or that. When does the veteran let you know? Is it during the interview? Is it after they've been hired, then you let the HR know?
Who's
When
question?
is the proper time? This is to anybody.
Oh, okay.
I just have to be,
Oh,
because
okay.
we're making
Right.
eye contact.
That's a good interview technique, that's a plus. That's a plus.
When is it the proper time to say, you know what, every Thursday at 3 o'clock, I have my group therapy that I go to? Do I do it during the interview process, or do I wait and do it after I've been hired?
You
take it away.
Robbie, where are you at? One of my program managers is here, okay? Runs our biggest program at the company. My personal preference would be, please don't tell me this after you're hired, because I'm already planning that you're here. Robbie, what are your thoughts?
Same thing, Stacy. I like to know upfront. Again, as Stacy already said for Sam, very veteran focused, and the intent of knowing it upfront then is so that I can, in part of the hiring, know upfront what I have to do to make sure that we're meeting the requirement. So I have to make adjustments to schedules or whatever, then I can do that and support that. But that's not going to keep me from hiring someone.
Can I follow up as a veteran?
Sir, please.
Going through temp classes and separate, that's just opposite of what they tell you to do.
That's right.
Because they tell you, if you go in
Yeah.
and say you're still linked to the reserve, you have, your family member, that stuff sort of, all
See-
of a sudden you interview yourself out of a job.
I thank you for pointing that out. Please, 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 and I cannot stress this enough. All right, Sam, I know you, so I know we're different kind of companies than what you're gonna see out there. I have had some of these groups tell them, don't even put your veteran status on your resume.
Yeah, all that.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
I go to tap classes. I teach them.
Know the company and know who you're applying for.
Right. That's
All
it.
right, if they're veteran friendly, they will get it and they will understand. You need to know the environment. I'm telling you now, if you're in an interview with me and you ain't looked at our website or done some homework on our company, you're starting off wrong. Okay, because we're gonna be asking you questions. So you have to do your homework for the companies that you're applying for. But if you see companies out there like that, I mean, there's so many others out there. I mean, Phil, I know how we do business, and we're a different kind of company, just as Robbie said. I wanna know it up front, because I can plan for it. Look, I'm a service disabled veteran. I'm a 3rd generation service disabled veteran. My dad's 100% disabled, Vietnam veteran, okay? I get it. That's the culture of our company. Know who you're applying to.
Just as a follow-up, ma'am, I can appreciate what you're saying, and of course, you do your homework before you go to an interview, so you know what that company is about. But at the same time, how do you discern a veteran-friendly company? Is that a label you put out there on the website? How will I know as an employee or someone, a potential employee, that you are veteran-friendly? Is those
Here's what you can do. There's a couple of ways that you can accomplish that. Obviously, the research, but we do market research. I do market research on companies I want to work with. That's how Phil and I know each other. I'm sure he did his research on me and said, hey, is this the kind of person that I want to work with? Use your LinkedIn, social media. I mean, Google is your best friend. Information is so abundant, and I tell my staff that every day. There's so much information out, and I guarantee that you're either connected with or know somebody who's connected with who knows somebody who works in my company.
So Stacy, having said that, let me just end with this thought. If you can't go to my website and understand that I'm veteran friendly,
Yeah.
I'd be surprised, right? I mean,
I would
you go to my website, you go to
Absolutely.
Stacy's website, you will know. And the other part about not communicating, the fact that you have to go every Thursday at 3 o'clock, I would look at that as, what the hell was that about? Never mentioned a word to me on the interview. Is that person dishonest? now you got this uncertainty that's gonna come out anyway.
Trust
Right.
me.
You might
Exactly.
as well just put it on the table and deal with it. That's my philosophy.
Right,
Yeah.
and I guess my follow-up question to that, and this goes to everybody that's in here with HR. How do you protect yourself from the HR standpoint with, you know, them coming back and saying, well, you didn't hire me because I'm disabled? So how, from an HR perspective, do you protect yourself?
Are you gonna answer that question, sir, or are you ready?
Yeah.
Go, I'm anxious to hear the answer. Go.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, coming from a recruiting background as a director now, you are going to do, or you're gonna have the person that did this interview do an actual form or write-up on that interview. That piece of paper will save your behind if anybody ever comes back and says, you didn't hire me because I was this, or you didn't hire me because I was this. And you pull that piece of paper out of the desk and say, no, I didn't hire you because this, this, and this. That's how, the easiest way to protect yourself without building systems.
All right, I'm getting even live from Stan here. All right, this is the last question. I'm sorry, Stan, please.
Yeah, the federal side, yeah.
Federal, I work for Federal Aviation Administration, I have several colleagues in here. What we tell veterans is, no, you don't tell that in the interview. That's no different from you asking me if I'm married, if I have children, those
Right.
things. Now, when you tender or you call me and give me an offer, I'm gonna tell you, well, would vacation be a problem because I've already scheduled that, and I have medical appointments that I have to keep. And at that point, at least from our side, is when you would discern if that is a
Right.
good fit.
That's fair. I mean, the government has a little bit different,
Exactly.
right, so, but I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and, you know, we do work with FAA, so great organization, we love working with you guys,
I
so,
love it too.
all right.
From private sector though, to answer that, you know, the way we do it, we got a program that's implemented. So that accommodations interview that happens with our health advocacy, that gets addressed right there.
All right, look, so how about a big round of applause for our panelists? Bob had to leave, sorry. And I say a big round of applause for you all for being here and for all what you do, and for our veterans, thank you very much for your service, and we really appreciate the time and energy you bring to the table. Thank you.